Hello, and thank you for joining me on another one of my adventure travel series videos. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dimitri, and I'm an American expat living in the Philippines. If you find this video entertaining, please make sure to like and subscribe to my channel. And now sit back, relax, and enjoy as I take you on an exciting adventure of the time-lapse traveler. Hello and welcome to the fifth and final installment of the Cuban series, where Khrys and I went on a trip with four of our colleagues and friends, Igor, Angela, Paul, and his sister Mary Faye. Together, we went on a 9-day tour to experience the fun and exciting atmosphere, the art, culture, and history of this amazingly unique tropical island nation. Cuba has been stuck as if in a time capsule from 1961, when virtually all international trade had stopped due to the nearly complete embargo enforced by the United States, which is located just 90 miles to the north. And this is a policy that remains largely intact even to this day. If you still haven't watched those other episodes yet, I invite you to check the whole playlist, which will also appear as a link at the end of this video, as well as in the description. We begin this episode in the home of the world-famous author and novelist, Earnest Hemingway, whose grounds have been converted into a kind of museum to reinforce its rightful status as a national landmark and major destination for travelers from around the world. This, being a proper tourist trap, was not only the perfect place to learn about the life of Ernest Hemingway, but also where you can get more of the quote-unquote Cuban experience by enjoying some popular local musicians doing their thing and drawing in an audience who get to enjoy their talents while sipping on some local rum or other delicious drinks, with sugar provided by juice squeezed out from actual sugarcane husks, which are of course locally grown. The flesh of these husks also make for a nice sweet treat to chew on, which we all tried. Now going back to Ernest Hemingway himself. This literary genius, who was responsible for such novels as A Farewell to Arms, For Whom the Bell Tolls, and his most famous work, The Old Man and the Sea, for which he got a Pulitzer Prize, and was inspired by a local fisherman that he used to go out fishing with in the nearby waters. Sadly, Hemingway was a very troubled man who didn't have a happy childhood due to his parents seriously mistreating him. This has led him on a path to having 3 failed marriages, being often distant from his own children, and eventually committing suicide using his own rifle just a few weeks before he was to turn 62 years old. His property here was left with a whole lot of cats that he used to keep as pets, some of whom are buried here in front of his beloved fishing boat, the Pilar. All of this has been preserved by the Cuban government when they took possession of it after his death. The country's leader, Fidel Castro, admired and respected Ernest Hemingway, and some would say that they were close friends. His death was mourned both in Cuba and in America, where he grew up, as well as around the world. As in previous episodes from this series, this is a case of me not being able to predict that I would eventually be putting together these memories into a series of vlogs to be shared with the public, and so the video footage here is complemented by some photos that were taken during our travels. This photo, however, is particularly memorable. When I first saw that painting on the wall, it was like looking into a mirror of myself being 20 to 30 years from now. To contrast the home of Ernest Hemingway, I also wanted to show the places where we stayed in the different cities around Cuba that we visited. Luckily for us, the home sharing and rental service Airbnb is popular in Cuba, which certainly helps attract more tourists. Unfortunately, I don't remember how much any of these places cost us. It turned out to be a really great deal each time. This place in the city of Sien Fuegos, which is named after one of the original revolutionary generals in the Cuban struggle for independence from the previous totalitarian regime, turned out to be a really relaxing spot. It's kind of silly that this bathtub curtain turned out to be so memorable. Of all the places that we stayed in, this small resort in the city of Trinidad was a real favorite. Not only were there accommodations and the rooftop dining area that had great views, but it's hard to beat having a fridge that's always stocked up with cheap and delicious local beers at all times. I already showed this place where we stayed in Havana, so no need to dwell on it again, but you should watch that episode if you missed it, because as an introduction to the series, it's really my favorite one. This place being our return stop back in Havana, before we were to turn back home to New York, was somewhat bittersweet. It was a clear reminder that our journey around Cuba was nearing its end, and so we tried to soak in as much of the one-of-a-kind environment that we would certainly never forget. While we as a group were traveling around Cuba, it was of course crucial for us to remain connected between each other as well as to those at home.
Cuba has a very unique way to allow internet access. In 2015, the Cuban government opened up the first 35 public hotspots in some key public spaces, such as parks and public squares, and have only a short time to get internet access before it runs out. At $30 for just 4 gigabytes of data, internet access certainly wasn't cheap. As of 2015, only 5% of the Cuban population had any kind of access to the internet at all. But lately, that has been changing, and now more people than ever before have less restricted access to go online from the comfort of their own homes. When we were visiting the country, we saw crowds of people bunched up in these public Wi-Fi spaces for some very slow internet access on their smartphones. As of the past few years, however, things have been improving more rapidly as Google signed an agreement with the Cuban government to help the state-run e-tech telecommunications monopoly with much faster internet access by way of having internet servers installed on the island instead of having to rely on a signal traveling all the way from Venezuela to the nearest Google server, which now greatly improved internet access, with most sites freely accessible, which is a completely different story from the censorship in communist China, which proactively blocks most web access outside of its borders. As of now, it has been reported that about 8 million Cubans have at least somewhat reliable connection to the World Wide Web.
Out of all the travel adventures I've ever had, this was definitely one of the most memorable trips for sure. While traveling around the island as a group, we had a chance to visit places that were virtually untouched by modern life, such as this marketplace by the impressively tall bell tower near the city of Trinidad, where women were hand-weaving sheets and cloths of all types, and we brought home this great quality tablecloth as a souvenir. We really enjoyed the party atmosphere, especially in Trinidad, where there was a popular party spot for tourists and locals to dance well into the night. The biggest parties are, of course, in the capital of Havana. This is where the culture, history, and the most vibrant lifeblood of Cuba resides, as it is the gateway into the heart of this nation. With this, I'm going to close out this video and also this series of our adventures throughout Cuba. I genuinely hope that you have enjoyed this passion project as well as the rest of this 5-part series, which took me a really long time to put together, since this footage was recorded well before I had any idea that I would ever be making this kind of story-driven compilations. If you did enjoy this and learn something new, then I would really appreciate it if you hit the bell icon and leave some thoughts in the comment section. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and hit the bell icon to be notified of my future projects. Always take care of yourselves and each other, and of course, keep looking out for more videos coming at you from the Time-Lapse Traveler.